everyone. Jerry Tabatt with you on another edition of our military community. Got a great program going today. A lot of things that you don't even know about. A special place out on the beach. It's called Man in the Sea Museum. Got three individuals with me today that hopefully I can keep a track on all of these guys and gals. But I want to introduce them first of all. And let's just start down here. We got Stephen Greier, who's a DCAT project manager. Notice I got that right. NSWC Panama City. And then we got Steve Mulholland. He's the executive director. And of course, Jean McDougall over here, she is a board member and event coordinator, and you do a lot of diving, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But to set this all up, first of all, Stephen, give us your background, please.
Long story short, I've lived here in Bay County since 2000. I retired from the Navy Experimental Dive Unit as a chief electrician sat diver in 2012. I've raised 4 girls in the community, and just this is home. So.
And you're giving back in the Man of the Sea.
Blessed to give back.
Yeah. Steve?
Retired master diver. Been in Panama City off and on for about 20 years. Love this place. It's the home of the military diver. And I've been with the museum now for about 3 years, and I've been the executive director for about 1.5 years.
Good deal. Jean, you're on the board, and thank you for coming in today, but you're also the event coordinator. What got you interested in being in part of the Man in the Sea Museum?
Well, for lack of better words, I was roped into it.
Okay.
And actually, somebody told me one time that I should be involved. They thought I could throw a really good party. And I didn't want to do it. And then I went in and I saw it, and I saw what it was about, and I said, I have to be a part of this. Yeah. This is something to treasure forever. Right. And so then I threw a really big party. We made a lot of money, and I'm here 5 years later.
Good deal, and that's what we need. And it's going for a good cause. Steve, give me a little history on this museum. Now, a lot of people, they've heard of Man in the Sea Museum, but they say, yeah, well, it's the same old stuff sitting outside and everything. They just don't realize it's changed inside a whole lot.
It's changed. It's changed a lot. A lot of people don't know that Panama City, this little base here, is really the home of saturation diving, and it's Sea Lab 1 started here in Bay County, and Sea Lab 1 is sitting in the parking lot. And it was the first time ever in history that men were able to live underwater, around 196 feet off the coast of Bermuda, for about 11 days. So saturation diving plays a key role in the museum. The founders of the museum were the Sea Lab individuals who went from Sea Lab, and then because of that program, all the offshore oil, everything stemmed from that. So they had a little bit of money, and they got together, and they started this museum over 41 years ago. And it's just, continued to grow. But what we're really focused on is all military diving and the role that Bay County has played with military diving. A lot of people don't know that the only dive school that the military has for any branch is right here in Panama City Beach.
Right. And Steve, you were a master diver. You know a lot about the diving and everything. What a lot of people don't realize is they say, okay, diving, that means it's Navy people. It's not. I'm an old Air Force guy. There's actually Air Force people get involved in this too.
Yeah, as the other Steve had mentioned, here in Bay County, every service goes through dive school here now. And that's what we try to focus on at the museum as well, try to tell the story. Obviously, like you mentioned, it's a little heavy Navy, but the Army has their divers. They have Special Forces divers and hard hat divers. Coast Guard has hard hat divers. Air Force, even though we don't want to admit it, they have divers, right? So, and the Marine combat divers. I mean, we're proud that we want every community to be part of our museum, and we've been striving to get to that point.
And one thing I want to get in before I forget, you actually had the pleasure of doing some stuff with the space shuttle crews, the astronauts.
Well, I did. In my previous job, before I started with the museum, I did have some time to dive in Houston at the Neutral Buoyancy Laboratory. Got some a funny story real quick. One of the Sunita Williams, one of the astronauts, did a couple space shuttle missions. We were actually on a ship together way back in the day, so I got to see her again and talk to her. But of course, I was a BM3 and she was a lieutenant. We didn't hang out too much back in the day.
But you still had, and she realized you had an important job to do too. So the military history is so big on this. And Jean, as a board member, what do you see as probably one of the biggest challenges in getting the word out to this community, what this museum actually means to the community?
really just helping them to know that they can come in and there's something for everybody there. Being able to bring people there, events that we have. These guys have done a phenomenal job.
Right.
I mean, they have resurrected this museum. And so there's constantly new things, new displays that they're doing, all kinds of stuff. So it's not just some old stuff in there. They're constantly bringing out new things, unclassified stuff. We have a new wall with that.
I've seen
it's really
some
cool.
of that. That's
yeah,
amazing.
Right. So a lot of good fun things and being involved in raising money just to keep it alive.
Well, and that's what's so good about it, and that's why, you know, volunteers are so important. It's what keeps things going, and especially something like this, which is a nonprofit, so you need the money, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But where do you get these artifacts from anyway? I mean, people can go out there and they can spend more than a day going through that. I mean, you have artifacts upon artifacts. Where do they come from?
We're really blessed. We've got just a lot of it comes locally. So many military divers retire in this area. We just had the helmet from the Washington, D.C. first dive school ever. The helmet from the front of that building just happened to show up on our doorstep. We're getting ready to do a new display of all the different dive schools, but it's all private donors, and you know, it's such a nice responsibility, and it's, you know, privilege to be trusted with this material.
Yeah, and I would imagine when you have people come out there and visit this museum, when you see the look on some of these, not only the older people that come in, but the kids that come in there in total awe. How does that make you feel that you're actually showing them some history?
Well, it makes us feel great, of course. We get a lot of people. We ask them how they heard about the museum, and they'll say, I was just driving by, or I've driven by it a million times and never stopped.
Right.
So they're stopping, and they're pretty much in awe of, I didn't realize all this was in here. You know, and then we try to keep interactive with the kids. I mean, because, you know, granted, the kids are happy, the parents are happy.
Right.
So there's some hands-on stuff. Kids can turn an old dive pump that's 120 years old. There's a couple dive helmets they can try on. We got a scavenger hunt with prizes for them. So they're learning and not really knowing it.
Yeah. By the way, what is that we have sitting here on the set?
So that is a Mark V diving helmet, originally commissioned by the Navy in 1915 and dove by the Navy up to the mid-'80s.
Wow.
It's kind of the staple when people think of military diving. That a helmet like that was being used in the late 1800s, like about 1870 they started using those helmets. And the Navy started using different ones, and like I was leaning towards, in 1915, they wanted to have one helmet that all the divers throughout the fleet had, so they can change out the parts. They knew how to do certain things, so that was the Mark V helmet.
And I mean, you got the history like this, and you also got some of the more modern stuff. People don't realize that right there, that's 50 pounds of weight right there.
Yeah. The whole suit is 190 pounds with the weight belt and boots and suit and everything. So,
before we get into some pictures and things, we'll get to those in just a second. But Jean, you're a diver. You do a lot of diving and everything.
I do.
What are the reefs like that these guys are working with to make sure that they're available for people, they know about them and that? What does that do for
our
you?
reefs have changed quite a bit, and I personally think it's from the hurricane. Last time I dove, there's kind of some silt down there.
Right.
It's not as active and live and vibrant as I remember it before the storm. But you know what? It has a way of being able to fix itself in some ways. And then, of course, while we're down there, I'm trying to clean the lionfish because the lionfish are so invasive and killing everything on the reef.
Right.
Plus, they taste good, and it's fun. So, I mean, as far as the reefs out here, we do have beautiful, beautiful reefs.
Right.
But I think that with what they do, they probably try to stay away from the reefs to keep them healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if people have questions about it, you guys can answer them, of course.
And we're in partnership with NOAA right now, and they're working on a reef restoration project out here in the Gulf. And we're going to that was kind of a surprise I hadn't told anybody about, but we're going to have a display in the next 6 months based on that and what's going on. Because the Navy's been helping them with that as well. They're going as far as almost 500 feet and replacing coral and things of that nature.
And that's what the good thing is a lot of people, like you said, when we first started, they'd drive by and say, oh man, the Sea Museum, I see a bunch of things that look like they should be in the water out there. But this brings it all into focus on actually what's going on at that museum and the history and everything behind it. And I know we got a bunch of pictures loaded up here. Let's just go ahead and start rolling them and let you guys talk about those as they come up. So there's the first one. What do we got?
Well, we got Sea Lab 1 there. Sea Lab 1's getting ready to be 60 years old. We're having a great anniversary next year. Here's why it's so important. It was built here in Panama City.
Right.
Like Steve was alluding to, the start of saturation diving. And now that's at the museum. People can walk through it and see what it was like for those aquanauts to live.
And we're going to talk a little bit more about that, but let's go to the next one here and see what we got. I mean, this is stuff you can actually see out there.
Yeah, well, this is, when they got done with Sea Lab 1, they brought it back to Panama City, and it sat in the Gulf of Mexico by stage 2. I know it's a great diving spot for a lot of people.
Right.
It sat there for 10 years, and this is right after they brought it back up.
Did you ever dive in that spot, Gene?
I did. Yeah.
What's it like?
My dad actually did. He had a pretty funny story. Mainly my dad, not as much me, but yes, we do like to
Good
dive in
deal.
this area.
All right, let's go on to the next picture. We got a ton of pictures here. I want to get into as much as we can.
A little bit older picture from when Sea Lab was first out there at the museum, and some of the SDVs that we have out there. You know, go on. Yeah, keep going. Just kind of showing. Once again, Sea Lab sat on the bottom of the ocean. So before they could open up the interior of it, some of our prior board members spent a lot of time going through all that rust and redoing the decks and everything. We were glad that was accomplished. In 2016, they recommissioned Sea Lab, as you see there. That's when it was open to the public to go inside. We were honored to have Bob Barth there at the time. He was the only aquanaut to dive all 3 Sea Labs during that
The
time.
man in the corner right with the brown suit on, Culpepper, he was actually the engineer who
Wow.
built that. And what people didn't know is that it never been done. So most of the parts for Sea Lab came from this really high-end store called Sears, or Sears Roebuck. But
Before they had all the
Culpepper
rest
was a young engineer who actually designed that system, and even to the end, you start talking about that system, that man, he knew it. Every nut, bolt.
And before we go on to another picture, I want to get this in real quick. There's a gentleman here in town that actually, Jim McCarthy,
Yes.
made a real important invention, and you guys talk about that at the museum. Expand on that just a little bit.
Well, he designed, it's funny, he went from Polaris missiles to the Sea Lab program. So he'll be the first to tell you he doesn't know much about diving, which is, he's brilliant. He knows far more than we do.
Right.
But he was the engineer who designed the ocean simulation facility over at the experimental dive unit here on NSWC in Panama City Beach, and it's the world's largest, deepest hyperbaric facility that's good to 2,250 feet, and the wet pot of
Right.
it holds 55,000 gallons. It's amazing.
And it's actually saved lives. I had to get that in about Jim because I know Jim, and he has made such an important contribution to the world of diving that I'm glad you guys put it out there. Okay, let's go. We got pictures, folks. Let's go ahead.
And Jim's been a board member of the museum for
Yeah.
the whole time.
Forever. He wrote this in.
You see the interior of Sea Lab right there. That's Jim McCarthy's love of the museum and his hard work, and Craig Cooper before, and they really did that for Bob Barth. So Bob could go back up there and see how it was. We're honored to display. Obviously, that picture was taken right after Sea Lab was painted. The sun does a lot of wear and tear, and back
Right.
to being a nonprofit. We've been able to do some fundraising and different grants. The St. Joe Community Foundation's been great to us. But we're painting Sea Lab next week, and we're excited about it.
One thing about that too is we have that picture on the interior there. People don't realize it, but there is actually a good amount of room in there to be underwater. I mean, it wasn't like a little 2x2 square that you had to sit in. It had bunks in it and everything.
That was a first.
Right.
And they've reduced the size greatly.
Right. Right.
It's not like that now.
But again, that's some more history that you got to get out there, folks, and look at what these guys have out here, and they're available to talk to you anytime out there.
This is kind of a picture just reminding us. This picture is about 20 years old, and kind of gives you a feeling of why people drove by the museum a lot. It almost looked like an old
Right.
DRMO. We've been working hard on the landscape, and we've painted the building. Some of the stuff outside was just kind of unsafe because of its foundation it was sitting on and stuff. So we've rearranged some of the items sit and everything. But we can go on. Yeah. Here's our grand reopening that we had 2 years ago. The museum had been kind of shut down for a bit.
Right.
But you know, the support from the community has always been great.
Right.
Both Bay County Chamber and the Panama City Beach Chamber. Panama City itself has been great in helping us when we hold events and everything.
Then you're going to have a special anniversary, and it's something. Now tell us about this for that C-Lab out there.
So C-Lab, as I mentioned, 1964, July 20th is when the divers launched down there. So this coming July in 2024, we're going to have the 60th anniversary. Wow. We're going to have a couple big celebrations. We're going to celebrate the C-Lab program. What we haven't really talked about is there was 3 of them total. C-Lab 2 and 3 winded up off the coast of California. But the guys did a lot of training here in Panama City. They did a lot of pre-dives and things. Dove on C-Lab 1 again just to get their feeling about them for being in a hyperbaric chamber. And we're going to celebrate all that. We got a big banquet planned for Friday, July 19th, and then Saturday, July 20th will be at the museum itself.
And speaking of that, before we go in a little further on that, Gene, you got the big celebration coming up. You're the event coordinator. What do you plan on doing for this now?
Well, a little
Put you on
guilty.
the spot just a little bit.
Well, a little guilty on this. Like I said, these guys have really taken the reins and run really, really well with it. That I asked them, what do you want me to do? And because we did switch from a very large oyster bash, which we just can't make the money anymore. Exactly. You know, the oysters are too expensive. So we had to come up with new ideas, different things, and then these guys have just picked up and run with it. So I might make them event coordinator and just stick with board member.
Wait a minute. These guys got enough to do, Gene. Yeah.
No, I'm
I
here
have
for
that
them,
down.
of course.
Gene McDougall
Yes.
is the event coordinator.
She sells the tickets
very good.
and gets the free beer.
Right. Have we got some more pictures there we want to look at? There you go.
Here we last year we celebrated the museum's 40th anniversary. We had a great kids' day out there. You can see our mascot Sharky. The governor even recognized us for our anniversary. Yeah. You know, once again, it's all about the community and giving back and letting them know that we're part of it. Back Beach Road is so busy now, and we get so many. We've tripled the number of visitors that we've had in the past 3 years. So this year we're on goal for 8,000 visitors for the year.
And that's pretty good for the way you guys are trying to develop and grow, so that's pretty good. One thing you may want to think about is with all the congestion and everything going out there now, maybe the sign a little higher and a little bigger, maybe we can go neon with it. What do you think?
No, definitely light it up, or have Gene out there waving a flag.
There you go.
Come on in. You know, once again, it's all about the community. We've been part of the Master Diver Union that happens every 2 years out here. We're getting ready to have that in May. That Cajun Place, Angry Tuna. There's been so many restaurants that have supported us with little fundraisers that we have. You know, we've been at different concerts doing fundraising events. So,
but that's what you have to do, and that's the way that you get out and make this community aware of what's actually going on out there. And one of the things that we've seen quite a few pictures right now, but I want to talk about the tours that you have out there. People can actually call and schedule a tour with you, group tour if they want to.
We do. We have a lot of school groups come out. We definitely like those planned because we can have 100 people a day sometimes. Right. And if a group of 40 kids came in, you know, if we can plan that on one of the days we're closed or, you know, prior to opening a little bit, we can definitely make the experience a lot better for them. But once again, we have scavenger hunts that we can do. We have little documentaries that introduce them to C-Lab and diving, and then, you know, that hands-on experience. When the kids try on a dive helmet, they're taking pictures, because they all have cell phones now, but they're taking a ton of pictures, just smiles from ear to ear. You take them in C-Lab and show them, and I'll make them learn, even though they don't realize they're doing it.
And one thing I noticed out there, too, is you actually have a room where if the kids are small, like 4, 5, 6-year-olds, they can sit there, they can color pictures if they want to. So you've got something for the little ones, you've got something for the larger ones with it. And it's all, and the interactive part, talk about that. You do have some interactive stuff where they can push buttons and things like that.
Well, we do, once again, being able to turn a dive pump that's 120 years old and it still spins and
Right.
pumps out air, and realizing that back in the day, somebody had to turn that pump so the diver didn't drown, you know, it still
Right.
had air for them to do that, to try on the helmets and stuff. Through some of our grants, we're growing in the interactive phase. We got some touchscreen monitors coming,
Right.
where they can choose through different categories and learn different things. But that part we're still kind of growing on a little bit as far as some of the electronics. You know, we kind of live in a day where you got about 2 minutes of somebody's attention,
Right.
and a little video or
That's
a
a
little
lot.
touch
30
screen.
seconds.
Yeah. But it kind of attracts them and makes them learn without really knowing they're learning.
And the thing about it now, it's no longer where you have a bunch of tables set up where you look at, say, a big display and you got a 40-foot long table and you got all these items sitting there. You've actually built racks and cabinets and things like that.
Yeah, it's only a 5,000 square foot building, and of course we have a lot of stuff outside, but we have a lot of stuff inside that needs to be displayed. So getting better at how it's displayed and telling the story. Once again, Gene alluded to some of the secret diving that happened after Sea Lab. We've been able to get hold of a piece of a Russian missile, a piece of the K-129 submarine that went missing. It was a Russian submarine. I mean, these pieces are priceless.
Right, and it's all documented, which a lot of people don't realize, that you're not putting up anything out there that you can't prove that that's exactly what's there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Diving wise, I'm gonna give him a break because he's been talking a lot. But as far as diving, what is probably the most excitable thing about actually seeing what's in the museum and then getting out there in the water and actually diving and listening and thinking about what these guys are telling you about?
Well, these guys do a lot deeper dives.
Right.
And so I can only imagine that the sea life that is down there is a lot bigger. And I think that would be probably one of the biggest differences, that they see some things that we don't typically see as much in shore.
Right.
Now, if you're lucky, you might here and there. But yeah, pretty much the sea life, I think.
That's,
That's enough.
you still dive today, don't you?
I do not.
You don't? I thought you did.
I do not. No.
Bathtub. In the bathtub.
In the bathtub, in the pool, and that's about it. I used to clean the bottom of my boat, but no. I retired, and you know, I'm president of the museum. And that's about the extent of my.
Right.
I love it. I've had a rich history,
Right.
and you know, having had the opportunities to dive on the Arizona Memorial and on the USS
yeah.
Monitor and
Yeah.
things like that, it's been a fascinating career. Wouldn't trade it for the world, but you know, new shoulders, new knees, broken back, broken pelvis. My diving days are.
What's some of the coordination, Steve, that you have to go through? I mean, you don't just get these stuff right here in Panama City. You're talking to, like you say, NOAA. You're talking to the Space Command. How does this coordination work so that you make sure everybody's on the same page?
It's you know, once we have that connection and we're talking, it's just keeping the lines of communication open. You know, talking with the board members and making sure we're all on the same page of what our goals are and things of that nature. And then working with the person that wants to donate. Right now we're looking at getting a submarine rescue chamber from NAVC.
Wow.
And that'll be a great asset. I got to dive that a few times. It's 850 feet, so I'm kind of excited about getting one of them.
Well,
to
didn't
tell
we do
that
some
story.
trades with some things, some items?
Well, the 1 atmosphere suits. That
Yeah.
Yeah, we have
So we've
at
done
different
trades
times.
with people
Yeah.
as well.
That's something that's amazing, too, to look at those suits from 50 years ago diving to today. Today it's like putting on a coat and tie. I mean, you know, as far as, because everything's so slim and it's so much more economical and it's
yeah.
not as heavy and as bulky. Progress, education, they learn things from that. Before we run out of time here, it goes so quickly, I want to talk about membership. How can someone become a member of Man in the Sea Museum?
Well, we love our members. That helps us upgrade and everything. Helps, you know, we have a running email list where we can get the word out, where we're having fundraising dinners or we're having special events where they can meet an aquanaut or something like that. They're welcome to come in and join and get a membership, or they can also go to our website at maninthesea.org, and we have a membership link where they can donate and or get a membership. One of our big fundraising events is a brick that's going, brick patio that's out there, so they can buy a brick as well.
Well, that is super on that. What's your normal hours operation out there?
Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays, 10 to 4. Once again, if you have a larger group, they can give us a call, drop us an email, and we can set up something special. But that's our normal time. $10 and less to get in.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
No.
Well worth it.
Yeah. As an event coordinator, what kind of special things do you have just to signify how important the military is? I mean, you have like Veterans Day events, Christmas events. Do you have those kind of things set up out there too?
We do some of those. Again, back to that, these guys have been really good in tapping into the military part because I was never military. So, but as far as raising money, we have an annual that we do try to do in January, which is coming up. We will raise some pretty good money there.
Right.
Not like our big events, but again, you know, to take a big event like that, you got to figure out where the money is to be made. And so we've got that, and then we've done quite a few food trucks, kind of open the museum, host with the food truck, that kind of stuff, just to expose it.
That's super. That is super. We got about 3 minutes left to go. Steve, closing remarks.
Thank you for having us. We really, without the community, we wouldn't have a museum. So really appreciate your time, appreciate your service and your history. Thank you.
Thank you.
Look forward to having you back out at the museum.
Oh, well, count me in. I mean, I'm hooked on that. It's so important that we look not only at today and tomorrow, but we've got to look at where we came from. And you guys have such a good thing. Steve, what do you think?
This museum is part of Bay County. I mean, Bay County's home of the military diver. We will and we have to keep this museum alive. And with the community support we've already had, and hopefully even more that we get now, the museum will get better and better, I promise you.
It will. Jean?
Well, and also new board members, new people, fresh ideas. You know, we can't do this forever, although our heart's there and we could be lifetime memberships, but boots on the ground, we need fresh people every once in a while. Yeah.
You know, I gotta cut this off here because we're about running out of time, but this has been something that's dear to my heart, to people learn the military history and how everybody works together out there. And this is not for your benefit, it's for the community's benefit. Steve, Jean, thank you so much for coming in. If you need something, give me a holler. Thank you for coming in today on our military community, and we'll make sure the word gets passed along.
Thank you.
Well,
thank you so
Appreciate
much.
you.
so much.
That's it, folks. That's another edition of our military community. 30 minutes doesn't last very long, but again, go out and visit our Man of the Sea Museum. They're in the phone book. You can give them a call there. You can look them up online, but a lot of things going on. Support your local Man of the Sea Museum. Thank you for watching. I'm Jerry Tabatt. We'll see you again with another edition next week of our military community. Have a great day, everyone.